Have we got a new game announced? Earlier today, about an hour ago, the forums had a new thing appear on it from Tinto. The forum is called Tinto Talks. And now we have the first thing. We're going to read it. This is live. I'm excited. I think it might be EU5. Let's see. Let us see. Hello, everyone, and welcome to... Yeah, what is this really? Who knows? Is this a game called Tinto Talks? No. First of all, Tinto stands for Paradox Tinto, the studio which founded in Sitges, that's in Barcelona, in 2020, with a few people moving down with me from Paradox Studios to Spain. We've now grown to almost 30 people. Now that's out of the way, what's the talks part about? A long time ago, we started talking about a game as soon as we started working on it. Back in the long, almost forgotten past, we used to make games in about 8 to 9 months. I remember us announcing Vicky 2 with just 2 mock-up screenshots and half a page of ideas. This changed a bit over time, with the rule of not announcing a game until it passed its alpha milestone, in case it could be cancelled, as happened with Rune Master. And then when projects started going from an 18-month development cycle, with games like EU4 to many years, like our more recent games, the time from announcement to release came much closer to the release of the game. Why does that matter? Well, from a development perspective, communicating with players is extremely beneficial. It provides us with feedback. But if it's so late in the development process that you cannot adapt to the feedback, then a dev diary is just a marketing tool. I think games like Imperator might have looked different if we'd involved the community earlier and listened to feedback. Absolutely 100% true. People who say that Imperator should have had more time in the oven to cook forget that it was community feedback that changed it for the better, especially with the 1.2 Cicero update. That would not have happened in a vacuum. That needed a community feedback. So, if we look back at Hoi 4, this was from the first time we talked about air warfare about 10 years ago. Not much is in common with the release version. I don't really know Hoi, so I can't really comment, but yeah, that looks different to what I see in Bacoan's videos, for example. However, talking about a game for a long time is not great for building hype either, and to be able to make proper huge announcements is important as well. True. What's this? This subforum is called Tinto Talks, talking about the design aspects of the game we're working on. We'll not tell you which game it is, nor be able to tell you when it will be announced, nor when it will be released. Damn it, it's not even an announcement. Alright. We'll be talking with you here almost every week because we need your input to be able to shape the game into a masterpiece. I mean, it's clearly EU5. You might... What's Project Caesar? It's EU5. Come on. Come on. Of course it is. Of course it's EU5. It has to be. Alright. Well, I like the new direction. Getting player feedback before the game is even announced is interesting, but sure. Alright, what about Project Caesar? At Paradox Studios, which Tinto is a child of, tend to use the Roman Emperor leader names for our games. Augustus was Stellaris, Titus was CK3, Sulla was Imperator, Nero was Runemaster, Caligula was Victoria 3. We even named our internal empty project for Clausewitz and Gemini that we base every new game on, Marius. In Q2 2020, he started writing code on a new game, prototyping new systems that he wanted to try out, adapting the lessons learned from what had worked well and what had not worked well, plus recruiting for a completely new studio in Paradox Tinto, training people on how to make these types of games while also making some expansions for EU4. Today, though, even though we're a fair bit away from announcing our new game, we want to start talking weekly about the things we've worked on, get your feedback on it, and adapt some of it to become even better. However, we'll start with the vision, which is not really something you do change at this stage. Okay, like, I feel like we're all on the same page here that we're talking about EU5, right? The thing is, with Tinto, it's set up in Barcelona to take care of the Europa Universalis franchise. And I can't see them making anything else other than EU5 or an EU spin-off. So, for example, I mean, you can hear the music in the background. I could envisage a situation where the developers of Anbana got together with the developers of EU4, and they released Europa Universalis Anbana as its own standalone game. I could envisage that as a possibility. I don't think it's going to happen, and if it was going to happen, I think I would have probably heard some rumors of it quite a while ago. So I don't think it's that. But, like, at this point, there is not really any other options that I see as being possible other than EU5. So, this new game, the pillars of this game, I guess we can call them, the vision. It needs to have a believable world. You should be able to play the game and feel like you're in a world that makes sense, feels rich and realistic. While not making the game less accessible, features should be believable and plausible, and avoid abstraction unless necessary. This final bit is huge for me, especially. Abstraction is monarch points, right? Abstraction is development. Avoiding those two specific things is exactly what I want from EU5. Like, specifically, those two things, those abstractions, I don't want them. Setting immersion. Our games thrive on player imagination and what-if scenarios. We ensure both a high degree of faithfulness to the setting, which will give a special feel to the game. Strive to give this game the most in-depth feeling of flavour possible. Oh, yes, please. I like immersion. I like flavour. I like immersing myself in said flavour. I want to be all spicy. That's just the way I am. As long as it's not just mission trees and there is flavor besides that, of course. Yeah, no, absolutely. Replayability. I think Paradox just has that down just in general, right? Even their worst games are replayable. There should be many ways to play the different starts and reasons to replay them. Different mechanics in different parts of the world create a unique experience depending on what you choose to play. In a deep and complex game, there should be so many choices and paths that the player should feel they can always come back to get a new story with the same start. Sounds ambitious. I mean, I don't know if that, like, coming from any other development studio, no, that would be pretty ambitious, but, like, for Paradox, this part, not so much. Having all three of these, is that ambitious? Honestly, that should be the bare minimum for a Paradox game. It just should be. And I think EU4 is the one that, like, nails that the hardest, but then again, I've got 8,000 hours in EU4, so I might be a little bit biased on that front. So what games do I think represent the pillars well? I mean, Paradox games, basically. Some art, nice. Cheers, next week we'll be talking about the most important things in the world, besides family, beer, friends, and the great lord of the dark, maps. Yes, maps. What do I want from the map? Of course. Look, I gotta say, once again, this is... It's EU5, right? It has to be EU5. I can't see a situation where it's not. So, when I am going to be talking about this unannounced Project Caesar, like, I'm going to go into it with the assumption, the expectation, and the belief that it is EU5. It won't be March of the Eagles 2, it won't be Sengoku 2, it won't be Stellaris 2 or Victoria 4 or anything like that. Like, Tinto works on Europa Universalis games. Imperator Rome 2, imagine. So, yeah, these are, like... These are very overarching, kind of very vague vision elements. And it's not something that you can pinpoint this is an absolutely essential key component of this game. That's not really a pillar. Victoria 3 had, like, these solid pillars. I don't think it met any of them very well. But it had these solid pillars of, I can't even remember what they are at this point. But they were there. And these are kind of, like, above that. They're a layer above that. Like I said, these are things that all Paradox games should have. But for pillars specifically for EU5, I mean, I already made a video on what I want to see in EU5, and I don't think I've really changed my opinion on it. It also depends on what time period we're looking at. Because, personally, I'd like the time go back a little bit. I would like to start in the 1300s and end in the 1700s, but I don't know, I might be kind of crazy on that one. Or not in the right state of mind, but tainted by my own taxes, potentially. But I think for pillars, for a Europa Universalis game, diplomacy, very high up on the list. Colonization needs to be on there. A functional warfare system? Crazy as that sounds, that needs to be a pillar. But yeah, a functional warfare system and internal development, but obviously I'm not talking about click a button, get some development. I would very, very dearly like to see a population system. But yeah, I kind of feel like there's going to be a lot of influences from Imperator Rome in EU5. Because while Imperator Rome did kind of fail, some of those mechanics are just objective improvements over what EU4 has. I expect to see, for internal management, of course, you're thinking of development, but you're also thinking of, like, stability. And at the moment, EU4 has -3 to +3. Imperator had -100 to +100, and it had a what's the word? It moved around. It had a resting point. I can't remember the word for it. Like, that I could definitely see in EU5. The mission system from Imperator was an improvement over the mission system in EU4. I would say I absolutely would say that the government system, as in you have these 8 governors, 8 advisors, it's better than the advisor system that we have in EU4, and political influence is better than, you know, admin, dip, and mill mana. I don't know. I feel pretty confident that things that I want are going to be in it, but I don't really know why I feel so confident. Population system would be one of the worst ideas to add for game stability. Nope, disagree. Disagree. Solidly disagree. I don't think EU4 needs to have pops in a, like, I can click on this pop and see everything, all the details around it. I don't think I need that. I don't think I want that. For me, population system, that would be one of them. But population system could simply be a case of you click on a province and you see this province has 434,000 people in it. And then you can get more detail and get the breakdown of, you know, 330,000 of them are of this culture, and 220,000 of them are of this religion, and etc., etc., working that way. I don't think it needs to be specifically tracked pops. I think it can be, I mean, I don't even know if you would say it would be abstracted into those, like, overarching population numbers. I think that would probably be my more desirable way of having a population system. Because at the end of the day, what they've said here is avoid abstraction unless necessary. To me, a population system is something that would avoid abstraction in so many different areas. Do you need manpower anymore as a concept in your game if your military is pulled from your population? I'd argue probably not. If your population system had a breakdown for how many people in an area are of, you know, are employed as, you know, military, or if we're going really early, then it's simply you're, you know, pulling population out of the farms and fields and such. Do you really need manpower as an element at the top of your screen. I don't really think so. That's literally the Vic3 system. It's not. It's not literally the Vic3 system. Makes the game run like ass, as it needs to keep track of each category. Pops grow and divide up further and further as the game goes on. It needs to keep track of thousands of pops in a single province. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not saying... I don't think we need to track individual pops, though. I don't think there's ever going to be a situation where we're going to... Like... The thing with Victoria, and specifically the time period that Victoria's in, is there was lots of, like, kind of crazy migrations going on. And so Victoria has a problem where you've got 17 different pop types, or 17 different cultures in one province, because, like, one dude moved over. Like, I don't think it needs to be tracked on that level. I just don't think it's necessary. And yeah, just track pops by the thousands. If you're getting less than 1,000 people over, then just don't fucking track them. And like, Vicky has the issue of it's tracking individual pops and then tracking their jobs as well. And there is so many jobs. I think in an EU5, you really wouldn't need to track that many, like, professions if you're tracking it at all. Like, obviously, some kind of employed in military, right? That should be tracked. Honestly, you could do it with like the estate system, right? You got your upper class, that'd be like your nobles, peasants, city folk. I don't know. I don't really see a problem with it. What's the purpose of a population if it exists only as a number on the screen? Well, for one, if you say replaced all development in EU4 with a population system like I'm talking about now, right now, that population system would determine how expensive a province is to take in a war. It would determine how much money you make from it. It would determine how much... Like, it would simply just replace development and everything that development does. And work. I don't see that's a problem. And for the... setting immersion, I actually have EU4 open right now, so let me just open it up, right? I know this is Anbada, but don't worry about it. Say I am converting... I have some provinces that are wrong religion. I am converting this province, right? I start the conversion, right? This missionary gets to 99.9%, and then I cancel it. It is like zero progress has been made. Absolutely zero progress whatsoever. And, like, how does that make sense? Whereas if you had a population system, you send your missionary to a province to convert the population, it's converting actual people over time, and if you cancel it, you're not losing progress, you're just not progressing further. I can't see that being a worse system. It's just kind of better, you know? Pops would finally allow for the more proper war crime. No, we don't even need to go into war crimes, but honestly, yeah, no, if your province is occupied, then the population should absolutely go down, as people flee, starve, or are killed. Colonization might actually work somewhat nicely, you know? Like, EU4 technically has a little bit of a population system, as you need to get, you know, 1,000 colonists into your province before you could directly call it your own. That's, sure, we could, I don't know, that's a bad example, but something like that, it could work. Like, this here screams population to me. Just does. I don't think a very basic population system is actually better. If it's just as simple as more pops is more of stuff, that you start tracking culture changing, religion changing, individual province, manpower, etc., etc., we run into Victoria 3 performance issues. Gotta remember as well, Vicky 3, like, that time period had a huge population compared to the population of the world in, you know, let's say 1400 to split the difference, right? Population of the world in 1400, 350 million. Let's change this to 1800. 1 billion! Right? So we're like, you know, we're tripling the amount of people. And especially if we're talking about, like, the late game Vicky, we're up to 1.6. Whereas if we're talking about, you know, the late game of an EU time period, I mean, we're going back to 1800, so a billion. Mayo tracks a tons of different sections of pops, and it runs fairly well, and that's an EU4 mod. Oh, that's a bad example. Mayo doesn't specifically run super amazingly. I just historically, and I don't know. But also, if the game is built from the ground up to work with a population system, I think it probably wouldn't be that bad. I mean, yeah, you look at Vicky, but I mean, that's Vicky, really, let's be honest. More about the segmentations of populations, not about the individual people. I mean, sure, but if you didn't have... The idea that you... Say you go through the Reformation. You know, you get... Oh, Center of Reformation pops up in... I don't know, Memmingen. That population, every single person who lives there, instantly converts to Protestantism. And my auntie is an orc. Bad example, she kind of is. No, but it's not believable, right? It's just not believable. I think it is. It very heavily works with these two systems. Like, it avoids abstraction, it makes it believable, and it immerses you beyond anything that a development system could possibly do. I don't know. I already made this video as well. I linked it here recently, didn't I? No, I didn't. Yes, I did. In the comments. In a little over 8... Shut up, me. Yeah, no, I made this video a year ago. I still stand by pretty much everything I said. I think what I want to see in EU5 is a population system. Like, that's like my biggest ask. I can't see me being wrong on it. Because, as well, it'd be a pain to actually find it. But if we look in, like, Johan's postings, we can search through this and see anything that he's ever said to talk about population. There's a lot that is positive about it. There's a lot that is positive about population systems. It'd be much nicer if there was a way to, like, search here. Search in forums said... Oh, maybe I can, actually. Said by Johan. Population. Yo, maybe. Maybe. Let's see what he said. Oh, okay, he's talking about somebody else saying population, okay. Why would you need to use 3D models for pops? Agreed. He's talking about a population system. This guy's against pops because we're in a conversation about when do you think EU5 will be released, and he's against pops. And Johan's like, yeah, but like, who cares? That's not we're not doing pops, you know? Right? Pops in Paradox games means annoying micromanagement. And he's like, yeah, but nah. Johan has been pro-pop. He's been pro-pop. This, you know... this guy's using maths to say it would work. I just, you know, it's gonna happen. It has to happen. We need pops. I guess the strategy is to keep EU4 and launch EU5 with it. I mean, EU4 is not gonna die, right? People will still play it when EU5 comes out. People still play Victoria 2 and Victoria 3's out. People still play CK2 and CK3's out. There will be people who jump to the new game, of course. But, you know, the old game doesn't instantly become completely dog shit and not worth your time anymore. Vic 3 performance issues have shaken your faith in their ability to make it run good. That's a fair, like, concern. You think EU4 can still get DLCs along with EU5 because most of them don't really add new mechanics anymore, just mission trees? Right, but, like, the most recent dev diary for EU4, EU5 isn't out yet, right? Surely people have seen this by now, but when have you seen a DLC come out or be announced and their target or their focus is so disparate to include America, Central Europe, Central Asia, Hormuz and Iman, Bohemia and the fucking Aztecs in the same DLC's focus? There is no chance that this is not the last one. This has to be the last one. And like, what is Vic doing for its pop system anyway? What? How many different pops is it tracking? That's bright as fuck. Professions. There we go. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 different pop types that it's tracking. Do you really think there's a world in which EU5 needs to track 15 different jobs? 'Cause I just don't. "15 times culture times religion per state." Exactly. That number can be brought way the fuck down. Like, you could bring that number down to, like, as little as 4, I think. Like, Mayor and Taxes did it with 3, even. Vic 3 isn't directly tracking those individual people, though, just the segments they belong to. But it's still 15 times the segments and stuff. Also tracks literacy, religion, culture, political group. But imagine EU5. Imagine. And it tracks upper class, middle class, peasants, and what? I mean, technically, this is the time period where slaves are totally like a thing. So it could track those. And then military, like soldiers, I think. I don't know, it's a bit iffy to do that, but I just kind of feel like, you know, I'd rather see slaves as a pop type than a good. That definitely. If it worked like this, then Imperator Rome wouldn't run like shit in late game. It kind of doesn't. Imperator Rome doesn't run like shit in the late game. Like, if we're in comparative sense, comparing to how other games, EU4, how it runs in the late game, I'd argue is worse than how Imperator runs in the late game. Vicky is an odd case because it runs worse than any other game I've ever played in the late game. Obviously a lot, and EU5 doesn't need to be an entire society simulator, but you're probably going to be 6 to 7 segments per culture, per religion, per state. EU5 is going to run probably mildly better than Vic 3. Did they fix the late game performance in Vic 3 anyway? Like, is it reasonable now, or is it still dog shit? Also, if EU5 slave nations aren't able to be used effectively, you're gonna have fun with yourself. Yeah. No, I get that. I don't think EU needs to track literacy or the individual wealth of the various pop types. I just, I don't think that's necessary. It doesn't need to track the goods that each of these pops get. The good availability. Like, oh, my clergymen are really pissed off because they don't have access to wine. That's not something that EU5 needs. Alright? So there's so many, like, job satisfaction, not necessary. Wages, not necessary. Right? So there's so many things. Like, you say, yes, Victoria 3 runs like shit in the late game because of all the blah blah blah. But EU5 would be worse if it tracked as much as Vic 3 does. I don't, like, look at this. I don't want this in my EU5. That's fucking awful. No thank you. I'm good. But, like, tax dev, diplo dev, mill dev, it's just not a very good system. That's the condensed system. Fuck me. Like, literacy could be done on a per state basis and not actually be tied to the pops. Like, you wouldn't absolutely need it. Yeah, exactly what Thumbster just said. We had the same idea independently. Fudge something like literacy on a per province basis. You don't need to be prop. Exactly. It's not necessary to go so in-depth with that. But let's refresh, see what people are saying that aren't showing bread and oil on Andalusia's Day. Okay. We're having sort of but not really dev diaries about a game. You won't tell us what it is, but we know what it is, and you want our input. It's gonna feel like Guess Who, but for a game. But like we're all gonna win the Guess Who in one pick, right? What's the point of pops if it's just a number to represent religion and cultural pie charts? You could just abstract a pie chart for each province. Immersion. Like, what's the point of them? Immersion. What's the point of them? Removing the tedious, awful, aneurysm-inducing element of EU4 that is the dev cycle. I don't want to play that shit. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm up to my points limit again. Let me just go in and click the buttons. A shit ton of. I don't want to see that. I want my provinces to grow naturally. You know? Growing naturally over time gives me better juju than oh, I've made more cows. Look, I made more cows again. Like, it's I don't want to see that. I actually don't see why they say believable world if the world is just Earth, so you agree with Chasm that he wants a fantasy EU5 game? I mean, to be able to play the game and you feel like you're in a world that makes sense. I feel like that kind of still applies to Earth. Maybe they could make natural growth tied to prosperity. Makes sense that war-torn frontier doesn't grow as fast as peaceful capital. Yeah. I mean, there are mods that have tried to just implement a population system. Like, just straight up. Let me see if I just write in population. And I know I'm really harping on and really pushing this population idea, but, like, come on, I'm right. I'm just right. What does this one do? Your country will slowly grow naturally. Can I click buttons? Wait, show me the province map mode. Oh, there isn't one. Are you not going to click on a single province? That's annoying. Only adds events in a new decision, so I don't think it actually is that. Development rework. Can you click these buttons? Can you click? You can. God damn it. No one's doing what I want them to do, but I know there are some mods that do it. Like, I don't know how long ago this was updated. But Common Universalis was last updated in 2019. Oh no. But this mod added... Can I see a province view, please? There. This mod added population that would grow over time. You couldn't click these buttons. Or you could click them, but it wouldn't actually show you... It wouldn't increase the development. That's not what these did. Lambert started to answer my comment and got a 90-second ad. Oh, sorry about that, man. I'll go back to it. Maybe they could make natural growth tied to prosperity. It makes sense that war-torn frontier doesn't grow as fast as peaceful capital. And absolutely. If I was to add in a population system, I would make it so that your growth percentage over time, like how fast your province is growing, is based on numerous factors. Some of those factors being the prosperity, or like just how much money that place makes. When people are attracted to go to a place that makes more money. You could have each province having a amount of space, right? You can't... you probably could still fit like a shit ton of people in a tiny city state like Lubeck, but you can't balloon it to the moon, so you'd have some kind of limits. But having like an equilibrium point for places that would be the population would be going towards, and that equilibrium would be affected by things like the infrastructure in the province, how many buildings you've built. It would be affected by prosperity, if that was still a mechanic. It would be affected by if it's sieged, because then your equilibrium will fucking tank, and the population will slowly decline. I feel like you want grey eminence. Yes, I actually do. I very much, absolutely, yes. Indeed, it is RIP. There's so many different things that you could have to influence a population system, and I don't think it's like too big of a stretch to say that it would work pretty well. is my thoughts on it, at least. But yeah. Oh, this is the old version. There's a new version. Hang on. 4.9. When was this last updated? 20... Fuck. I was excited there. Wait, there's a 5.0. 2020. Nope, we're getting there. 1 year at a time. Version 2.0. Nope. 5.0 in Chinese. Nope. What is the most recent Common Universalis? Damn it, that doesn't seem to have worked. Just slap on Imperator system and you'll be happy. I mean, I would not be... Like, I think there are better ways, but I would not be unhappy if we got just Imperator system. They have, what, 5 pop breakdowns? The nobles, citizens, the third type is freeman. Oh, there's one between freemen and slaves, isn't there? I feel like there is, but I can't remember. Maybe there isn't. Tribal, yes. But I will say, if they do just implement Imperator system, don't move pops. I don't want to move pops. Moving slaves in Imperator is just awful. I hated it. I don't want to see that again. I just don't. I really hope that it is not the case. If you can fit millions of people in Chinese cities in antiquity, you can shove millions of people into a single province. Well, how are you going to feed them? Like, China managed to feed them because their staple crop, rice, has lots and lots of calories for little amount of arable land growing space. That's why they were able to do that. I don't think Lübeck has much growing, like, place to grow crops, and the crops they're growing give less calories per tonnage. Can grow rice in Europe, sure, but they didn't, because it just didn't. So, unless you want a fantasy game where rice actually entered Europe way the fuck earlier than it did in real life, sure. Hell, you might as well have said, yeah, but, like, you can grow tomatoes in Europe. And? So? Ah, but potatoes! And what? So what you're saying is I can grow rice and make a megacity? Fucking hate megacities. Oh, another thing that I would have loved, if just saying about Grey Eminence being RIP, has there been any update on Songs of the Eons in the last ever? Because I know... I don't even know how to spell that shit. When was the last time this got an update? 2 years ago. Oh, sadness. Sadness. This would have also been something I would have liked to have seen completed. Basically, fantasy, Grey Eminence on a world. It'd be so cool. Rice was grown in Europe in the thousands. Was it really? Huh. I was unknown of that. Songs of the Eons is closed because of lack of funding. No, that makes sense. It got dropped. Oh, there was no... Well, I didn't see an announcement about that, but that kind of sucks. Project Caesar. Like, if you're choosing project names, like, putting Caesar's name on it, of all the emperors, I mean, I know he wasn't an emperor, but of all the people to put as your code name for your game, and you choose Caesar, you gotta be like, this is a flagship, right? This is a fucking flagship. Yeah, basically, Flowfi just said what I was saying. But I guess talking is faster than typing. Sounds very Empire to Rome too. I mean, they're all Roman emperors. Titus was CK3. Caesar is way bigger than Titus. The only one that comes close is Augustus. But even then, like, I know Augustus was the first emperor, but Caesar is still the bigger name than Augustus. Titus was CK3. CK3 is a flagship. Titus was unknown. No, that's fair. That's fair. What do I think about internal factions? They're actively seeking their own goals. Like an expansion on the estate system? I would be in favor of that. I don't know what kind of way that would express itself, but I'd definitely be in favor of more internal strife than what we have. Because the disaster system is that's kind of the only representation of that we have. It's EU5. Tinto started working on EU4 content and then pretty much nothing for 2 years at this point officially. Well, no, they didn't do nothing. Check the time the dev diary was posted. 1450. I'm saying 14 because I'm an hour ahead. 1453. Those those motherfuckers. I can't. God damn them. That better not be the fucking start date. I'm telling you now, Johan. If you make the start date 1453, we're gonna have hands thrown here, because this is not acceptable. I would fucking hate if they made it that. I'd be so mad. I'd be so fucking mad. Could be 13:53 in GMT. I mean, sure, but Stockholm and Barcelona are on the same time zone. I can't believe they did that. Absolutely. Absolute jokes, really. They don't play reactively only, and stories start with privileges that are beneficial or harmful based on context. In a way, or like getting internal factions. I mean, think about, I have to remember way back, but Mayo and Tax's estate system was kind of the precursor to the EU4 estate system. Like, does anyone remember the old one? It was awful. The new one definitely took a lot of heat from Mayo and Taxes, and I think even more so recently with negative estate privileges that you have to get rid of. I could definitely see the estate system being expanded upon to bring it even more closer to what Mayo has done. Honestly, all you want for future PDX games is from them to feel like you're not loading into the game at the start. Why is everything defaulted out when you start a game in 1444? Yeah, no, that's a fair point. There's not a lot of countries that start with their estate set up, and they kinda should. Dev review, or are we playing something? No, we're not going to be playing anything right now. I'm just looking at the new Tinto Talks dev diary. But yeah, somebody posted, obviously everyone still thinks it's EU5, right? That's fair. Asking about what time period as well. I do honestly think 1356 to 1780-ish is like my main desire here as well. Have I given takes on trade systems? See, trade is interesting because I don't like trade in EU4. I think it's awful, specifically because it is theft. Right? There is no, like, trade in real life. It might be one, like, especially in the context of the, 15th, 16th, 17th centuries. It may have been one-sided, but it wasn't theft, right? Honestly, the most basic way of talking about it is the fucking triangle trade, and I really don't want to do that, so we're not gonna. But if we're talking about, like, trading with China, right? The Chinese got something when we bought their goods. And those goods were worth more when we got them back to Europe, but the Chinese still got something for it. Whereas in EU4, trade is just, I put as many boats as I can afford in a specific kind of region. They're going to sail around and I get money. Like, it's... and you get less money because my boats are there. It's not realistic and it isn't trade. So I really, really hope that the new trade system is actually trade. And I don't know how to do it. I really don't. I've thought about how I would want to do a trade system so many times, but I can't think of one that I would put my name on, you know? China was the original destination for the spice trade from Indonesia. In EU4, you cannot trade back to China. Yeah, like, trade being monodirectional is bad. You don't want that. But also, what you could do is a series of trade nodes. There is no, like, back and forth between it. Those trade nodes will trade with every node that is adjacent to it. And the push and pull is based on, you know, how much pull each place has. But, I don't know. I don't know how I would do it. EU4 trade is a one-way exchange. Yeah, it's theft. TK2, it's lines on a map and holding provinces to make more money. And in Imperative Rome is actual trade where you buy X and get money in exchange for your goods and services. Yeah, but Imperator is also very tedious to set up that. And I don't think I would like individual goods to be traded in that way. I think that's how they do it in Vicky as well. Honestly, Vicky 2 trade is probably the best trade system I know of. And yeah, this mythical world market is dog shit abstraction, but it does kind of neatly say, you know, goods are available to people. It's just going to be, you know, costing more, but you will be able to get them. And a world market kind of, like, just fills in the gaps of abstraction that you can't get a specific mechanic for. I think trade needs a winner in the trade, in my opinion, but it shouldn't be detrimental to the other party much. I mean, there's always going to be winners, but a winner shouldn't be, I win by screwing you over. It just means I win by getting more. I think what you're realizing is that abstraction is often fun and the pursuit of reality is hopeless. Look, if I was interested in reality that much, I'd go outside and touch grass. But I will inform you, I can't see the fucking grass because it's still covered in snow, so that ain't happening. Your problem with the EU4 trade is it's so static you're never making Tunis into a great trade hub despite Carthage showing it could be. Yeah. And then you see like mods like Post Finum, which change up the trade situation of the world because of the way that the countries have developed in that alternate timeline. But no matter what alternate timeline you make in EU4 by playing, trade zones ain't changing. They're completely static and unmovable, unchangeable. So, I don't know. Maybe each region could trade with each adjacent region, and then you use trade ships as specific, like, I can jump over this by that kind of way. I can make an adjacency between my region in Britain and my region in China by having ships, or, you know, we can't sail that far without the stop-off, so maybe, you know, you need to colonize South Africa to make that connection. Something like that. Some system of adjacencies. You also hope to be able to sell drugs in an EU5. I agree, because tea and coffee are both in EU4, and they are technically both, you know, drugs. Issue is that often it doesn't really make sense for a country to be doing the trade when it's usually private citizens doing it. Yeah, also very true. Countries getting involved in the trade is like a big deal. And it ends up with things like the East India Company. Or the other way around, really. That indeed also started as private individuals. Making docking rights and embargoes be more valuable sounds good as well. I agree. Like, being able to trade with China, like, just maybe let's expand on my idea of like adjacencies here. Like, if every trade region just traded with adjacent trade regions, and you used your trade ships as a way of skipping regions, your trade ships obviously have a total distance that they're able to sail, and they wouldn't obviously be able to reach Indonesia, China. So you would need to colonize places along the way so that you could extend that distance that you can connect. Maybe that's something that could be explored. Could trade also be the point of conflict between the state and pops, like how embargoes affect the merchant? You could, yeah. What do I think of trade companies in EU4? I fucking hate them. I hate them. They're awful. They're honestly incredibly, like, badly designed. The point where the problem is they're not popular enough to be used enough, so they were made stronger. It didn't help their popularity, but now the people who do know how to use them have got this immensely overpowered system that they can completely dominate with. I fucking hate trade companies. Really, really dislike them. Going for detail and realism, then obviously we need private merchant fleets tied to merchant and rich pops. Yeah, I don't think we're going into that level of detail. TC all of Persia moment. Exactly, that's the one I'm thinking of. Or in Anbana, trade companying all of this area as somebody working here. Is this already a trade company? Has he done it? Maybe. But something like that. What would be the ideal pop system for EU5 be? While I could see a light imperative system working, I do think just having an absolute number and some... I fucking hate that I'm going to say this. Pie charts. To show, like, different elements for them would be the best way. But I would like to see a breakdown of, like, 3, 4, 5, like, professions. Trade should just be a thing that exists in the background. Its most impact on government has on its privateers and declaring war. Yeah, I could definitely see that as well. Like, in EU4 right now, the most optimal way to have a navy is as many trade ships as possible. The only reason you need a military navy is if you are, worried about having to go to war on the water. But if somebody else is focusing on having a military navy and you're not, or you're not fully committed to it because you want, the trade money, you're still better off not having a military navy and just having your trade ships go to port. And it's kind of like useless then to have a military navy. So if trade ships just weren't a thing at all, and they were entirely private, and the player could not influence them at all, the player could then focus just on building military navies. They could be expanded to be a bit more in-depth than what we have right now. And they'd need to have more use than just, we're at war now, so therefore I'm going to use my navy to fight your navy and then blockade you if I win. Like, there needs to be more than that. Some projection of power through the navy. Honestly, I really like the way that Vicky 2 uses, like, the importance of the navy, right? The amount of colonial exploitation you can do is entirely based on the size of your navy. And, if you have no navy at all, you're not colonizing as fast as somebody who has all the ironclads in the world. Protect trade function should just only be a thing against pirates and privateers. Yeah. Did anyone else remember the time when, like, pirate navies would pop up, like, on the map and fight your fleets? I remember that. Naval warfare in EU4 is either super OP or absolutely useless. Control the seas dictated more, rise and fall of empires than not. Yeah, I really want some more expanded, like, use for the navy. But anyway, still in the game, you can spawn them via old code, but they blip out of fixed instance after one tick. Yeah, there's a lot of things like that in Paradox games. Legacy code. It's easier to just comment something out than, remove the code from the game. Much easier that way. But anyway, I am going to end this little live stream here. We've been talking for an hour on EU4, not EU4, Paradox Tinto's announcement of talking about a game that's not announced. So I guess we'll have to wait and see next week what it is they want to run by the community to see if they like for said unannounced, unnamed game. It's EU5. We're all gonna fucking call it EU5. But yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, 'cause I will put this on YouTube, let me know your thoughts about what we've been talking about. Do you agree that it is EU5? Or have you got some other idea that you're like, ah, nah, Lambert, you're talking bollocks, right? Because it's totally going to be. Let me know. I'm convinced it's EU5. I can't see any other options. But I still want to hear your thoughts about what you want to see in EU5. And also, go and watch this video. Because I already said what I wanted to see in EU5. And I'm pretty sure I talk about trade. Probably. Do I have timestamps? I do have timestamps. But they're AI generated, so they're useless. Yeah, no, I do talk about stuff. Let me, there'll be a link to this in the description. But anyway, I'm gonna head off. Thank you very much for watching, and I will, I'll see you for more, unannounced announcement talking announcings. Bye-bye.